Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. We're grateful for your afternoon, spending a little time with us here on 97.1 FM Talk. We just played in the last segment a clip from Chairman James Comer of the House Oversight Committee talking about these scientists that have gone missing. And this story is starting to pick up quite a bit of momentum. And it's because representatives in the House are trying to get answers, or at least put together information to get a clearer picture as to where these scientists might have disappeared to, or an explanation as to why some of them have died. Let's get to our guest. Congressman Eric Burlison joins us, representative from Missouri's 7th Congressional District and a member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, thanks for being with us today. It's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Annie. Good to be on.
I'm looking at this letter dated yesterday, April 20th, sent to Chris Wright, the U.S. Department of Energy Secretary. And it says here in the beginning of the paragraph, it's signed by yourself and Congressman Comer. The Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is investigating recent unconfirmed public reporting on the disappearance and death of individuals with access to sensitive U.S. scientific information. It goes on to say, a little bit down the paragraph, if the reports are accurate, these deaths and disappearances may represent a grave threat to United States national security and to U.S. personnel with access to scientific secrets. Congressman, can you give us a little precursor as to what you've learned that caused you to partner there with Chairman Comer to write this letter to the Energy Secretary?
Yeah, look, whenever we first started looking into this topic of some of these UAPs, there have been reports and allegations of people that have either gone missing or have died related to this topic. And I've always heard that. We actually sent a letter back in 2024 about a gentleman that was military intelligence named Sullivan, last name Sullivan, that was sent to the FBI to investigate his suspicious death. He was supposed to come forward and talk with Congress. He was actually on the schedule whenever he committed suicide. So, that there's been events like that, but there's been nothing even remotely close to what has happened recently, where we have a former U.S. Major General, William McCasland, who literally stepped out of his front door, left everything behind, and hasn't been seen since. That kind of got everyone's attention. But then when you started looking back and seeing the connections that he has to other people that also went missing, that's where it just seems very strange. So I'll try to break it down as quickly as possible. You have Anthony Chavez, who was working for Los Alamos National Lab and for the Air Force Research Lab, working on projects that General McCasland had appropriated funds for and was directing this research. He went missing, walked out of his front door, had nothing with him, left his cell phone, left everything, left his belongings behind, never has been seen again. That was in May of last year. Then 1 month later, in June, Monica Reza, who was an Aerojet rocket engineer working on the latest and most advanced alloy metals and materials for hypersonic missiles, she disappeared on a hike with her friends. And apparently her device was not with her. There was no way to track her or find her. Then within just days, Melissa Casias, who was also a Los Alamos National Lab employee, went missing and did the same thing, walked out of her front door. Nobody's ever seen or heard of her since. You have another gentleman by the name of Stephen Garcia, who was working for the Kansas City National Labs, but he was working out of Albuquerque. So a lot of this seems to be happening in New Mexico. A lot of these missing persons and scientists. He went missing in August of last year, and then of course the latest one was the general who disappeared in early February. So very suspicious. When was the last time, Andy, that you went anywhere without your cell phone?
Right. Nowhere. I don't even go to bed without my cell phone. It's like, it's literally sometimes it's right here in my hand right now. I mean, you don't part ways with that ever. It's like an extension of your body.
And that's why I think that this is, it's worth investigating. Look, I'm fully prepared to find out that these were there may be nothing nefarious that's happening, but look, I mean, it's so suspicious when you have 5 people working on projects that are being funded and directed by one of our U.S. generals, all go missing along with the general himself. It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it does. It does deserve investigation and answers, certainly, which you can't get without an investigation. Can you talk to us at all, at whatever level, on what kind of material that the research projects were on? Because in your letter there to the Secretary of Energy, you talk about U.S. nuclear secrets, rocket technology, among other things. It seems as though there's a sensitivity to the information that these individuals may have had access to.
Yeah, Anthony Chavez worked on nuclear material. Monica Reza worked on, as I said, the advanced metals and alloys that are used for rockets, and including hypersonic missile technology. You have, Michael Hicks, I believe, also, or I'm sorry, Stephen Garcia worked on nuclear research as well. So there's a gentleman who ended up appearing, showing up dead, named Nuno, and I'm going to butcher his name, but Laurelio. He worked on advanced plasma research, which is some of the most mysterious and kind of cutting edge things that we're aware of, that I'm commonly hearing talked about whenever we talk about advanced propulsion. So these are scientists who are working on some of the most cutting edge advanced technologies and sciences, and were cleared at some of the highest security levels. They certainly had information that would be important was important for the United States government, and would be important for any foreign actor as well.
I'm hearing the number 10 or 11. We're speaking with Congressman Eric Burlison right now, a member of the House Oversight Committee that is investigating these missing and dead scientists. How many are dead and how many are missing?
So there's about 5 that are missing, and the rest have shown up dead and under mysterious circumstances. And look, the press has put this list together, and we're responding to this. It doesn't mean that there's some dark connection between all 11 people, right? I mean, the odds of that being true is probably not very good. So, but it's worth looking into. And I particularly think of Amy Eskridge, who was working on exotic science. She was coming out with research she was going to make public that was in the area of anti-gravity research, which is pretty fascinating, like head turn kind of research, right? Her death was suspicious because she was claiming before her death that she was receiving harassment, that she was receiving intimidating threats from anonymous sources, that she would show up at her home and things would be searched, even all the way her underwear drawer would be searched. Okay, so she was making a lot of claims and seemed very distraught leading up to the point of her suicide. She had hired a gentleman as an investigator to kind of investigate and some of the harassment and things that were happening to her. He determined that she was a victim of Havana Syndrome, that she had been hit with which for those people that don't know what Havana Syndrome is. I want
to give you because I'm starting to hear people talk about this a little bit more. Like, let's take a diversion here real quick so you can give us an understanding of what Havana Syndrome is.
Yeah, so 60 Minutes did a really good piece on this when it first happened. It first happened in Cuba. You had U.S. military intelligence officials that were getting hit with this burning sensation, and it would cause extreme nausea, dizziness, lots of symptoms, and then these symptoms would last. And so I personally know people that have been victims of Havana Syndrome, and they still have lasting physical issues because of it. What they've determined is that there is a device that probably Russia was using, that is it's almost like a microwave laser. So it's a focused light beam because microwaves are a form of light. It's just a different wavelength of visible light. And if you, just like you can make a laser out of visible light, you could make a laser out of microwaves, point it at a person and do some serious damage um, internally. And so they were even through walls.
Wow.
So this has been proven. It's happened to not only people in Cuba, but here on Capitol Hill, there are people from our military intelligence community or from our agency, from the CIA, that have been victims of being hit with these directed energy weapons. And Amy Eskridge was one of them before she committed suicide.
We're speaking with Congressman Eric Burlison, a member of the House Oversight Committee, also representative of Missouri's 7th Congressional District here in the state of Missouri. And, I think about these stories, and it's it seems like a movie script. There are a lot of ways that our minds will venture down a path because we've seen shows like this before, movies like this before. And I hear you repeating, and I think it's important to hear you saying, like, there could be nothing nefarious around
right.
all this. It's very easy for us in our minds to fill in all the gaps and all of the blanks here because we've seen this show before, we've seen this movie before, but you're talking about real life, real scientists, real people who have lost their lives or who have gone missing. There are a lot of potential explanations as to what could be happening here.
There are, and look, at any population, you're going to have people that go missing. I think it's unusual that they were all working on similar projects, that were all kind of under a nexus, especially that they were being funded and directed by the Air Force research labs under General McCasland. That's unique. But in any given population, I mean, the fact that we have 5 people that walk out of their home with no devices, that to me is the most suspicious thing that we've seen. There are a lot of people like Amy that I've mentioned. There was another gentleman named Nuno Loureiro. I'm butchering his last name, but he was working on advanced plasma research. And so a lot of these people, died mysteriously. There may not be a full connection, right? There probably isn't. But if anything, I think what we should be recognizing is that we invest a lot into these scientists for them to be experts in their fields, and then give them a great deal of intelligence and authority. We probably should be protecting them.
Yes.
We probably should be hardening our top scientists and giving and boosting their security, because we do know that China does this kind of stuff. We know they have an operation that's called Operation Fox Hunt. They have nefarious foreign actors, spies, if you will, operating in the United States. And these agents, their goal is to either get scientists to be turned and come to China, or to repatriate Chinese scientists who have been working in the United States. And we know that we have had hearings on this program that China has.
That's not a philosophy. That's a fact.
That is a fact. Yes.
Congressman Burlison speaking with us right now. Was the initial exposure that you and your fellow members of the House Oversight Committee or whomever, was the exposure you had to this information, did it start through the media and then you caught wind of it and you were like, I'd like to research that? Or were there other ways that you were tipped off to, and here's another one, and here's another one,
yes.
and here's another
one?
So
the first one that we were tipped off to was when General McCasland disappeared. And the reason is because he is high on the list of people to talk to when it comes to UFOs and UAPs. So in our investigation in that topic, he was someone that had been reached out to be interviewed by David Grush and his team. They didn't get anywhere with General McCasland. He was not willing to talk. And so he's come up when people talk about who do we need to subpoena, who do we need to talk to, his name was one that was often mentioned, which is why when he went missing, it caught everybody's attention who's been paying attention to this UAP topic. So, and then when you started kind of peeling back the onion and realizing that there's people he's connected to that also have gone missing, that's when it really gets suspicious.
Yeah, Congressman, mentioning the UAP, the UFO portion of this, I'm not going to say story, but almost just question, investigation that you're looking into. This is kind of one of those topics that I, as a host, that I try not to be shock jock host. I try to report after information has been verified. I try not to theorize about things, especially things I don't know anything about. Aliens being at the very, very top of the list of things I don't know anything about. But it is a very interesting topic that people kind of joke about. But then the more sincere that I hear people like you, people who I trust in our government, say, listen, there's some stuff out there that is, like you said, this is a fact. There are known quantities that exist out there that are unidentifiable, or they're not things that seem like technology that we've been exposed to here before. And then I hear the president say that he'd like to declassify some information that exists out there that maybe the American public would like to see. Are we about to be in a pivotal place in our nation's history and our understanding of these UAP, UFO, the science that we know about it?
I hope so. I hope the president is going to release more information than I've been able to find. I've not been able to find any evidence of alien life. So I'm trying to stay grounded in the things that I have seen and that I do know. So here's what I do know, because I have seen footage and photos and had reports from multiple intelligence agencies and been briefed on this. There is a type of device or craft that is not flying under conventional means. There's actually multiple types that we have on camera. We have them on infrared. We have these things on different types of visual recording devices, and they do not operate under normal aerodynamics.
Eyewitness accounts as well, correct?
Yes. So, and I'm not talking about the people that said I looked up and I saw a saucer. I'm talking about people on a military base or in a jet with these things locked in their radar. These objects are like, and so you're able to verify through the radar that object was in skies. You're able to visually see it in infrared and in other spectrums. So these are real objects. And so you can't deny that there's nothing up there. So I've come to the conclusion there is something very mysterious up in our skies, and it is violating our U.S. airspace and our military airspace. So that to me is highly disturbing, that we appear to not know what these things are.
Congressman, is there a consistency in where these unidentified objects are appearing? Is there a consistency that they are near military bases or assets, or maybe even scientific locations? Is there a consistency with where these things are being identified?
There seems to be some commonality where they find that these things appear generally near anything nuclear, whether it's a nuclear power plant, nuclear missile silo, or a nuclear submarine. They generally will kind of that they'll be more often sighted near something nuclear. They'll also be sighted near water. So that's interesting. There was, and I'm not going to be able to comment, I was briefed on an event that occurred where they basically tried to set up a perfect case scenario where that would cause UAP to come in, and then to capture them or to try to document them or record them. And it was very successful. So this is when this only happened a few months ago. And this is when the whole conversation changed, because that event was one that no one could deny. There were so many people that witnessed these things, and these were all credible people working in our top intelligence sector, and they brought me in and briefed me on this almost within a few days or weeks after this event happened. So, I feel that was nice that they did that. They knew that I was researching this topic. Since then, that is the briefing that everybody wants.
Yes.
So the other members of Congress have heard about this. Leader Scalise wanted the briefing. He got the briefing along with a couple of other members. I had only told Leader Scalise about this, and now everybody wants this briefing. Did
you think when you were working to win the representation of Missouri's 7th district that you'd be the alien guy in Congress? I mean, you were the leading voice, and in my opinion, maybe it's just because of the way my feed is set up, but Congressman, when I see you talking on an X video, I just stop what I'm doing and listen to what you have to say next because it is so compelling.
Oh, thank you. Look, I try to again, I'm not I don't believe the aliens from another planet. I haven't seen any proof of that.
Sure.
Let's say grounded, and maybe we could just throw out some possibilities.
Okay.
In 2002, a Chinese scientist by the name of Ling Li, who was getting ready to publish anti-gravity research, actually was spinning off a business, and her colleagues felt so confident in this success of this research that they invested heavily in this new business venture. She immediately goes missing. She goes missing for a period of about 4 years. And then the last thing that we heard was an obituary. That was just a quiet obituary from this very, very important scientist. That happened in 2002, between 2002 and 2004 area. Then you have Amy Eskridge, who shows up dead, also working on anti-gravity research. What if it's not little green men from another planet? What if it's our top scientists that have had a breakthrough in technology and they're experimenting? We have these companies doing this experiments with some of this technology, and that is clearly a very, very secretive type of breakthrough technology. I'm just speculating. If it's not little green men, it certainly could be our own industrial complex.
Yes. What was it, Jersey or Philadelphia or something? A year and a half or 2 years ago, there were some things flying around over the top of one of our cities, and then it turned out that that's what it was. Lots of practical explanations, but what we don't know, definitely, like I said, people fill in the blanks. And we're looking for honest, as you mentioned the word multiple times, grounded information. That's what we always get from you, Congressman. It's a pleasure to have you on here. Please come back again soon. If you want to give us that briefing at any time, I'll clear my schedule, and we will love to have you back here on the Annie Frey Show.
Sounds good, Annie.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon. Appreciate you. That's Congressman Eric Burlison of Missouri's 7th Congressional District. The scientist thing is, like you said, there's a lot. Maybe none of this stuff is connected. Maybe it is. Maybe it's nefarious. Maybe it's not. But we need good people asking great questions, and I'm grateful to hear that the House Oversight Committee is engaging in that. And Congressman Eric Burlison, always grateful that he gives us some of his time in the afternoon to speak with you. Gosh, I don't really know what to do for the rest of the show. That was fantastic. Senator Talent's going to be with us. Of course, that will be a really insightful discussion about the pending ceasefire that's supposed to end tonight at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, of course. And the president, I had to look at the screen before I kept talking to you. We got televisions rolling here in the studio. And I know that at any given time, whatever the status is between us and Iran, it could change just like that, and it's a whole new ball game. So we're watching throughout the course of this afternoon. We'll certainly bring you any news as it continues to happen here, but we'll get an assessment from Senator Talent as to how this conflict is going to play itself out. It does not seem as though Iran is like super pumped to negotiate with President Trump. We had General Kellogg on yesterday, and he said we should not be negotiating. We should just be definitively, unquestionably winning the war. We started a war, we should win the war, and then we should get out of there. But negotiating is not the way General Kellogg said that we're going to get ourselves to a place where this thing is over. And I have that line in my head that I heard on Fox News yesterday morning before the show is, we've won the war, now we need to win the peace. How do we exit the stage without sacrificing even a fraction of the goal? Smarter men and women than me will have to figure that out. One of them will be with us when we come back, Senator Jim Talent, to give us his expertise analysis of the conflict in Iran. Will Chamberlain at 1:30 and Molly Hemingway at 2:05. Full show here on the Annie Frey Show, which includes you. We'll be right back.